Shalom, people. This is Brother Laos coming at you with another video. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to my channel today. I want to thank all my old subscribers and all my new subscribers. And as you come in, I'm asking you to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. And I'm going to ask you to share this video. I want to thank all of you that continue to view my video on Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Tahuri in the book of Genesis. And now the views are up over 1,500, and I'm getting comments every day on it. So I thank you for helping that be the most successful video that I have put out to date. Just remember that I got over 400 something videos on this channel, so please go back and also view those videos, leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, and please tell people to share it and tell people to watch. But today we want to talk about something that has been on my mind and heart to talk about for the last couple of weeks. Talking about suffering. I want to talk about suffering of the believer. And we're going to be coming out of the book of 1 Peter, the 4th chapter. And we're going to see what Peter has to say to us about suffering as a believer and how we are suffering. So we're going to start at verse 12 of 1 Peter 4. We're going to start at verse 12. It said, "Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial, which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you. But rejoice inasmuch as ye are partakers of Messiah's sufferings, that when his glory shall be revealed, ye may be glad also with exceeding joy. If ye be reproached for the name of Messiah, happy are ye, for the spirit of glory and of Yah resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. Let none of you suffer as a murderer, but let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify Yah on this behalf. For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of Yah. And if it first begin at us, what shall be the end of them that obey not the gospel of Yah? And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? Wherefore, let them that suffer according to the will of Yah commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing, as unto a faithful creator." And I like to use for a thought today, if ye suffer. If ye suffer. Suffering is part of everybody's lot on this planet. David said it best than anybody else. He said, "Man that is born of woman, days are few and full of trouble." No matter how long or how short your existence on this plane of existence of this planet is, there's going to be some kind of trouble in your life. When you're first born, the first thing that comes out of that baby's mouth is not a laugh, it's a cry. He or she is crying. And I remember they said back in the day when the babies first were born and they wouldn't say anything, they give them a little slap on the butt, kind of like, "Are you alive?" And it was, and so, like I said, the first words that come out of the baby's mouth is a cry of what, I'm here, I'm here. It's almost like I was resting comfortable in my mother's womb. Now I'm come out to face this world or whatever. And so suffering is the lot in some form or shape of every believer on this, or rather not every believer, but every person on this planet. But when you come into the marvelous light of salvation through the Son of Yah, Yeshua, and you have communion with the Father through Him and the Holy Spirit, you take on a different type of suffering, and you suffer because now the things that you used to do as a sinner, you no longer do those things. If you was out there lying, stealing, and cheating in order to make a living, now you can't do those things anymore. If you was out there watching pornography, you was out there pimping women, if you was out there gang banging, you can no longer do those things anymore because you're a believer. Because the Bible says, shall we commit, Romans says, shall you continue in sin that grace may abound? He said, no, Yah forbid. How can you who are dead unto those things do those things any longer? But because of the evolution of this thing that started out as the way, it became this thing called Christianity. And you will notice in the 16th verse of this, Peter uses the term Christian. Now, there's some people that try to go and say, okay, well, in the original language, Peter didn't say Christian. Yes, he did. He did use the word Christios. He did use the word Christios, but not because he believed that that's what we should be called. They self, we are the way, or of the sect, or the sect of the Nazarene. That's what the believers called themselves. They didn't call themselves Christians. Remember, it was the people at Antioch. It was the pagans and the heathens at Antioch that called them Christos, or anointed ones. And it was a term of a derogatory term. It was almost like the N-word to us as Hebrew people, as black people, when we are called that N-word by the oppressors. It's the equivalent to that. So as he was using it in this term, he was trying to show you that as a Christian, you're gonna have to not just suffer physical, but you also gonna have to suffer psychological terms of derogatory by being called a Christian. But he said, if you are called a Christian, almost like if they called you an N-word, he said, don't worry about it. Happy are ye, right? If they call you a Christian or they call you a Negro, he said, don't let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify Yah on this behalf, that he or she was deemed worthy to suffer to be called the derogatory term of being called a Christian or an N-word. Can you say amen, as they used to say in the Baptist church? Can you understand that as a believer, now you are not just also taking on the sufferings that every man and woman on this planet will go, but you have extra placed upon you of the fact that you are going against the kingdom of darkness. But as you are suffering, he said, every now and then you need to step back and understand, is that suffering that's being brought upon me because of my conduct as a believer, because my conduct is so contrary? Or is that suffering that you're bringing on because you are doing evil stuff that brings a penalty of its own? Like the Bible says, you reap what you sow. So as a unbeliever, if you are out there robbing, stealing, all that stuff, and you out there reaping all that, eventually somebody gonna rob, steal, do something to you because you sowing out there. So he's saying, if you as a believer, are you out here doing these contrary things that are against conduct of a believer, or if you want to just use the word Christian, whatever, are you operating outside of those parameters in areas of evil that's bringing suffering, and then you calling it Christian suffering when it really isn't Christian suffering? You are suffering as an unbeliever. You're doing unbelievable. So it's incumbent upon you that you understand what is the source of your suffering. I'll give you a good example. Okay, years ago, I remember reading this situation about this pastor that had a struggling church, and they was having problems paying their bills. So they said that he went into the church account, he took some money out, then he went to Las Vegas and he went gambling. He was able to flip that money and come back with $100,000. I don't know the particulars about what he did, what he played or whatever. I just know what the newspaper said. It said that he came back with $100,000, and he went to the church and said, hey, look, I got $100,000. I can pay off all our bills and all this. We'll be out of the red and all this kind of stuff. And of course, what happened was the deacon board got together. They went to the church and said, you out of here, buddy. You out of here. We don't operate like that. So now you as a pastor, you're out of a job, you got a bad name, you probably never, anybody with any sense, you're probably never going to be able to get another church to bring you on as a pastor unless you start your own. But you also got this thing out in the community of what kind of way you operating. So any financial problems that you and your family are gonna have, any problem that you're gonna have as to what about your character, as you suffer through that suffering will not have been caused by you operating in a way of a believer. That any suffering that comes on your life now is because you were doing evil. And that goes back to what Peter said in verse 16. He said, if any man suffer, let me take that back, verse 15. In verse 15, he said, let none of you suffer as a murderer. Let none of you suffer as a thief. Let none of you suffer as an evildoer or a busybody in other men's matters. And I submit to you that most believers in the West, and it's probably some parts of Africa too, but definitely in the West, that a lot of suffering that we're going through is not suffering because we were operating in the ways of the believer that brings its own set of suffering because you are going against the ways of this world. I would submit to you that a lot of the suffering that we are going through as believers here in the United States of America, in the West, is brought about because we are engaging in things that sinners engage in, and it's bringing upon suffering in our life, but we're equating it to Christian believing suffering as a believer, and that is not the case. I can even look at my own life. It's a miracle that the Most High Yah, and I already made a video about it, talking about how I retired. I'm gonna upload it today along with this video. But it's a miracle that I was able to retire when I did, because I was so messed up in my early life as a believer. So many mistakes and stuff that me and my family suffered through. Not because, now I ain't say everything. Understand what I'm saying? The Bible talks about being babes in Messiah. I understand that nobody's gonna get everything perfect. But what I'm trying to tell you is a lot of the suffering that we as believers in the West go through is not being brought about by us really living that authentic life of a believer. It's brought about us making gross or bad choices, sinful choices in this Babylonian system. We are not like those people over in the Middle East where when they get saved or whatever, and they tell them, hey, look, if you don't deny Yeshua, we're going to cut your head off. Or if you don't deny Yeshua, we ain't going to let you be involved in the daily things that help people survive in these poor countries that we are in. That is suffering. That is suffering when they say, oh, you're a believer, oh, you're going to have to live over there. You can't live with the rest of the village. You're going to hunt for yourself. You're going to have to plant for yourself. You're just going to be like cut off because you don't have the family gods and you ain't doing the rituals and different things that we say that you're supposed to do. You're going to be cut off. We are not suffering like that in this country. I can look at myself, like I said, some of the choices that I made, even with some of these crazy Christian churches or even ministries, period, where I was just taking my money and basically it was just like a gambling thing. Like, okay, if you get this, and then now you can hold a gun to y'all back and tell them, I gave this amount of money. Now you got to return it back to me 60, 40, 60, and 100-fold and all this other kind of crap shoot thing. That's why I believe that now that Christian pastor that I just got through telling you about, what I believe is he probably had been gambling the whole time, because if you got the skills, you have to have some kind of skills to be able to take some money and flip it and get that amount of money. But because of this roulette crapshoot type of Christianity thing where we give to get back or whatever, it puts that mindset in there. And like I said, when you suffer and you look at these mega churches where you see some of the members still catching the bus, catching cabs, whatever, and they're going through poverty and stuff, and then you say, oh, I'm just suffering for the cause of Christ. No, you're giving your money to a charlatan. You're not sowing into the right field. Therefore, you're going to reap this stuff. You reap what you sow. You go in there and see the pastor, he's totally sold out to the devil. You feel that you sold out to Yeshua by continuing to go to support that ministry. It don't matter what kind of ministry it is, Muslim, Hebrew, whatever. And if they're not doing right toward Yah, they ain't doing right toward Yah and his word or whatever. You sowing in this and you reaping nothing. You reaping nothing. You're not suffering for the name of Yeshua. You're not. And that's why most of the time when you go to these different places like that, they don't care about what kind of life you live. They don't care about how you talk. They don't care how you walk. They don't care about none of that stuff, because they're only interested in helping you key in on what's important in Babylon. Babylon was called the Golden Kingdom. They was concerned. Remember how much gold Nebuchadnezzar had? He had enough gold to make a 90-foot statue on the plains of Dura covered in gold, to get the people on the plains of Dura to be able to look up to something as tall as the Statue of Liberty, shining gold from head to toe, because he wanted to prove that the vision that he had, where he was just the whole head of gold, he said, no, I'm going to make the whole thing gold, to prove that Babylon kingdom was going to last forever. And in a way, he was kind of right. Not that the actual Babylon kingdom, but the spirit of Babylon just got transferred onto the preceding kingdoms, got transferred into Persia, and then Persia into Greece, and then Greece into Rome, and then Rome until the revised Roman Empire, 10 toes, of which America is the head of that, right? It is the Babylon in spirit, and that spirit is in this thing called Christianity, and really any other kind of religion that's in this country is concerned with doing that. And therefore a lot of suffering that we dealing with is dealing with economics. It's not a lot of spiritual things, because we have so watered down, being able to look at certain movies, being able to listen to certain music with cursing and vulgarity and stuff. Well, we don't, okay, suffering would be, okay, look, we are on a certain job, and we go into that job, and they say, look, we have certain requirements that you gotta attend this or go here and stuff like that, and you would say, hey, look, I ain't going to the Christmas party because that's pagan. I ain't going to the happy hour. I ain't going to none of that. But what we'll do here in Babylon is we say, okay, well, if I'm the manager, I do have to get acquainted with the people. So I'm going to have to go to the Christmas parties. I'm going to have to do, if I want to get ahead. Why would you rather suffer and say, you know what? Yeah, that's going to keep me from getting ahead, but at least I've got a witness. See, that would be what I would be considered to be suffering. But we would say, no. We've got to that place. We've got to that place. I remember when I had my job, that was me. They would say, hey, look, we getting ready to do this, and we getting ready to do the Secret Santa. I would tell my boss, I said, I don't do that. I don't do and this is before I knew who we were. Because remember, it was a lot of things that I knew before I knew who we were, that we were the people. And so I used to notice that kind of made people kind of about me. They like, oh man, he kind of weird. Is he a Jehovah's Witness? I said, no, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I just know it's a pagan holiday. I don't participate in that. And it was just all kind of things. So this is what he's talking about. If you suffer for righteousness' sake, you might think that's a small thing, but for some people that's a big thing, because they're introverts. They got to be around a lot of people. So that would be like, man, I can't suffer that. I gotta be around the people. I gotta be, and that's not to say that it may be certain things that you might be able to participate, but a lot of stuff that they want you to participate at work, a lot of stuff that your family wants you to participate in is not of Yah. You're gonna suffer if you say, hey, I can't do that. I can't be part of that. You see what I'm saying? We have so watered it down that a lot of the stuff that we are saying we're suffering is because we are participating in unrighteous things, and we just suffering the normal suffering that even an unbeliever would suffer. Is not because we are making sacrifices and we're mortifying the deeds of the flesh. I'm not talking about some ridiculous thing that says, hey, I'm wearing my dress down to my ankles or whatever, so they can't. I'm not saying that. I'm saying use the common sense that the Most High Yah has given us. I mean, obviously you're gonna know. You understand? You're gonna know as the Holy Spirit leads you when certain things that if I do that, this is the reaction I'm gonna get. But are you able to trust the Most High enough to say, hey, look, okay, I'll give you a good example. When our children were all young, me and my wife, we had made this one agreement. We said whenever we had a baby, at least for the first 5 years of any of my sons that were born, that my wife would not send them to a daycare. And we held to that. Was it a sacrifice for us in that? But you know what? Yah worked it out. Well, Yah, because my wife was a teacher anyway, a lot of time my wife was able to get jobs working in a daycare where my son would be in there. So it was like, oh man, there you go. And because what the Most High did, he honored that. That's what we wanted to do. We was willing to make that sacrifice, and Most High, y'all said, you know what? You ain't gonna have to even sacrifice. I'm gonna open up a doorway for your wife to be able to get a job working at the daycare where she and your son can go in at the same time. And I said, hallelujah. See, this is what I'm saying. But you got to be willing to suffer. You got to be willing to put it out there. Same thing with, people used to come up to me and, they say, hey, look, hey, what's up? What's up, Laos? What's up? I got a car here, food stamp. You wanna buy? I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm saying, nah, I'm not, even though I could use it. No. Hey, then certain people come and say, hey, oh, can I put so-and-so on my taxes? When they was doing the child tax thing, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. Nope. I'll give you this if you do that, if you let. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. And the Most High Yah again. Most High Yah bless me, because I say, you know what? Some people will say financially, man, you need to do this. Maybe you won't have to work those night shifts and all this different kind of things. If you learn how to, I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm going to depend on Most High Yah, and what Most High Yah, when I was willing to suffer and sacrifice. I'm telling you, something like I said, some of the jobs and stuff that I was doing, very dangerous jobs at the beginning, and I was like, it was taking a toll on my health. But I said, I gotta do this thing the right way. I gotta do it, even if I'm gonna suffer, I'm gonna sleep. But even that, my kids, I still made sure that it was involved in sports and anything they wanted, music, whatever they wanted to do, art, we still did. It was a sacrifice, but it was a righteous sacrifice that Most High Yah later came back. But it was still some things that I was doing that I was suffering that wasn't. So it was sort of like a combination. So what we have to do as believers is learn to start eliminating those things that we're suffering out of our life, that the actions that we are doing that's bringing about suffering, that is not suffering of a believer, because it's not going to bring you no benefit. It might bring you the benefit of knowing next time not to do it, but you're not getting no benefit of the Most High Yah's blessings down the line because you was not doing right. Let's just say, for instance, if you was one that was regularly buying people's food stamps and stuff, and you got used to that, and then when that got cut off to them, where's it going to leave you? Where you've been operating outside of the will of the Most High Yah, when he said, let none of you suffer as a murderer, as a thief, or as an evildoer, as a busybody in other men's thing. Now you're going to have to make up for that some other kind of way. What's going to happen if you were still dilly-dallying on the side, slinging here? Let's just say you were working at a barbershop, and we know that a lot of people that deal in barbershops, they ain't making a lot of money unless they own the shop and they renting out chairs. Most of them, unfortunately, they don't have a second job. They doing what they call out the back door, and I ain't gonna use that word, but you know what I'm talking about. And you say, well, it's just part of the thing. I'm making that up to make that up. No, and then when you get caught up, and then when you get, and then you still behind in your child support or whatever you trying to make up, how are you gonna rationally come to the Most High Yah and say, Yah, make it up, when you've been doing underhanded things to get? Okay, a good example was this white Christian. His name was George Mueller. I read a book about him when he was in Germany back in the 1800s. But when he grew up, he said he got addicted to gambling at an early age. This was in the 1800s, and he said he had got so addicted to gambling, right, that the day that his mother died, he didn't go to her funeral. He went out gambling. So make a long story short, he got saved. And he moved to England. And he said Yah started testing him. He said George Miller said Yah told him, I got to get used to, he said, you were so heavy in gambling, I got to get you used to living on faith on such a level the world gonna read your story about how you came from being a horribly addicted gambler to having total faith in Yah taking care of your daily need. So he said what ended up happening was he started getting into ministry. He got called to the ministry, and he said along with him preaching, he also was running these orphanages in I don't know if it was London, one of them big cities, and because I guess apparently all the stuff that England was doing back then, it was high rate of death from disease and sickness because of the industrial revolution that he was living in, and then the different little skirmishes and wars England was involved in or whatever. So it was a lot of orphans there. And he said he when he started the orphanages, he said, y'all told him to start an orphanage. He said, I don't know how I'm going to take care of these. He said, pray, learn to pray. And he said, boy, he developed a thing where he said he would pray the day before for what he was going to need the next day. And he said, Yah told him, he said, don't ask anybody. Now, this is just what he wrote. I can kind of believe that it was true. He said, don't, and he said, when you pray, I don't want you to pray and then go ask the people to give the stuff to you. He said, to show you that I am hearing your prayer, I'm going to touch the people's heart and they're going to bring it to you. So he said, oh, we might need so much milk. We might need so much bread. So there would be people in the community that know he had the orphanage. He said he would pray for so much provisions, and he said his faith got so strong that when he prayed for the preceding day, the people would bring it. He said he would see people come up with milk. They had horse and carriage back then. He said they would come with barrels of milk and bread. He said it would just be bringing it. Said, here, we wanted to donate this to your orphan. And so he said he just kept praying like that. And he developed where he said he would not ask anybody. He said they would just bring it. He said they would bring it. And his prayer life got so strong that not only did he have that orphanage, but he started a second orphanage, and he had 2 churches. He had 2 orphanages, 2 churches. I think each church had over 1,000 members or whatever in it, and he just became world famous. But he also had a lot of sickness, and he had problems with his stomach. And he said, yeah, he would be sort of. He said, I guess he felt somewhat like Paul or Saul, that he had this problem. He said, but he would pray for it. He said he would always constantly pray for Yah to heal him, because he said it caused him real bad problems. But he said I guess Yah came to him with the same scripture that he gave Paul. He said, my grace is sufficient for you. And so anyway, make a long story short, as he started getting up in age, he became world famous. He said, so what happened was, of course, he retired from what he was doing, but he still started traveling around the world and telling his story about how Yah had turned him from a seriously addicted gambler to living totally by faith without asking anybody, where he could just pray, and he believed he had the gift of faith so strong that he believed whatever he prayed righteously, of course, that Yah would give it. So he said as his age started getting, he started seeing where all those years of him praying for Yah to heal him for his stomach, he said he seen where the stomach problems went away, and he said that his health when he got older was better than when he was young. And then he said he would also go around the world and preach. It wasn't a faith thing like the word faith movement here, but it was just a thing showing how Yah can just remove that total dependence on using a wicked a lifestyle of just gambling and throwing your money away and suffering loss, to saying, oh, I'm gonna totally turn my upkeep to Yah. His was on a different level. So and he said that his prayers were really simplistic. It was nothing intricate or secret words that he used. He stated a story one time. He had a friend that owned a series of toy stores in in London or somewhere like that, and I guess he was selling the stores, I guess, because he didn't want to do it anymore. And he said he was over the man's house. He wasn't there, but he came over to visit him. So he said the man's son was there, and George Mueller was talking to his son. And he said, I guess the little boy must have knew that the father was closing the store, and the toy store, and he was like, what would you like? He said, I want a multicolored ball or something. I guess it must have been a ball in his dad's store that he seen that he really wanted. And so George Miller said, you really want that ball? He said, yes. He said, let's pray. He said, okay. He said, they bowed their head. He said, Yah, give this little boy a multicolored ball. Amen. That's it. He said about 20 minutes later, his father came in. He said, I closed up the shop for the last time. He said, but I seen this item. I wanted to bring it home for you, son. And guess what it was? It was the same multicolored ball that George Miller and the little boy had just prayed for. Yah had already, he was answering, and this is what he developed from gambling, causing all these different problems, whatever. And Yah said, okay, you're gonna have to suffer. You're gonna have to suffer through the years to build your faith up, but you gotta suffer building up your prayer life, because you were totally addicted to gambling. And now, in order for me to deliver you out of that lifestyle, you're gonna have to just take total faith in me, and it's gonna be hard. You're gonna suffer, but I'm gonna build you up on the other end, where people gonna look at that and say, oh my, he came from saying, oh, this is a sure bet. I'm gonna put this card here. I'm gonna throw this dice here, to, oh, now my sure thing is my prayer life with Yah, because I know Yah will supply my need. But the in-between time of him leaving that addicted life, getting saved, and then Yah moving him into that life of faith, he suffered. But the suffering yielded benefits. This is what I'm saying about us as believers in America. We are not going through that suffering. We are saying, oh, yeah, I'm walking by faith, but you out there buying people food stamps. You know that's illegal. You're on Section 8. You know you should have been off of Section 8 decades ago. You cheating on your taxes by taking other people's children, which think they got rid of that because of that, and all these other different things. And you're saying, oh, I'm suffering, I'm poverty. You're going down there, you're giving to these mega ministries because you want to have the Bentleys and all these different things. All of you suffering, and you're saying you're suffering. And Peter said, no, you're not. You're not suffering. He said, if any man suffer, don't suffer as a murderer. Don't suffer as a thief. Don't suffer as an evildoer. Don't suffer as a busybody in other men's matters. Gossiping. I'm telling you, when I was in a Christian church, definitely, and even in some of this Hebrew stuff, believers are some of the biggest gossipers, backbiters there is. That's just plain. And I, I'm talking about men and women. We are in busybodies. Now understand, it's not to say that you out here and you pointing out, stuff that's public knowledge. I'm talking about stuff that's out there. It's public knowledge. So you're not reporting on something that's scandalous or salacious. I'm saying, how are you doing it in a constructive way, or are you like this P. Diddy thing, right? We're talking about some legal stuff here that this man definitely needs to be charged, and he needs to be prosecuted for the stuff that he did. There's no doubt about it. But are we out here doing salacious things and stuff that's not of benefit? Or if it can be handled, instead of you doing this, you brought it to the attention of the law enforcement or some agency that could prosecute the people, outside of just having something to scandalously come out against somebody. And like I said, being a busybody. A busybody is somebody that's busy, but they ain't getting nothing constructive doing. Is what you are pointing out. Is the sins and different things that we are talking about. This is one of the major things that a lot of people that were going into Christian churches were talking about when they said, you know what, I would be counseled by the pastor or whoever, and then next thing I told him or her some kind of detail about my life, and then they would preach it across the pulpit. Now understand, I was preaching in a Christian church. Sometimes y'all do lay messages on your heart that might just for some reason correspond to some of the things that somebody might be going through in their life, or maybe they told you. And then they'll say, you talking about me preaching across me to the pulpit. That happens. But I'm talking about those that do, or gossip or whatever. That's why I like, and when I was in the Christian church, that's one thing I liked about white Christianity. Most of the pastors there, they don't counsel you. They have a professional counseling staff on their church. And if you have marriage problems, you have any of that kind of stuff, you say, hey, go to them. I don't want to, because not just talking about preaching across the pulpit, they can't point their finger at you, but also for legal ramifications, especially if you give somebody counseling to tell them go back to an abusive situation and they get killed, you can be prosecuted for that. So I'm saying that we are, a lot of times when we discussing certain things, is not always to bring a constructive end to it, and then when it don't work out, we say, see, I knew it wasn't gonna know it, but did you try to make it better or whatever? Or did you even point it out to somebody that, I'm gonna say this and then we're gonna move on for that point about being busybody. I remember when we was in, when I was early in my career in the military, we was in Germany, and right above us was this other couple, and they used to be fussing and fighting and all that above our head. So we went to the building manager and said, yeah, this couple above, they're keeping us awake. They fussing and fighting or whatever. And so anyway, I don't know how they found out. I don't even know if they found out, but the lady, she was a black lady, it was a black couple. She bumped into my wife. She said, I noticed that y'all below us, our apartment. She said, I know we be making noise. She said, but me and my husband are going through and whatever. So, me and my wife are young believers, young Christians, whatever you want to call us. And so my wife started trying to minister to the lady, but she started noticing that the lady was always talking about, downgrading her husband and all this kind of stuff about, and my wife, she would listen. And I told her, I said, baby, listen, whatever you do, don't reciprocate with her when she's talking about her husband to you, and when she said, oh, he's no good, he low down, don't you. Now my wife knew, but I just was reiterating. I said, don't you say, yeah, you right, he's low down, no good. I said, what you need to do is say, if he is, then you need to report this. You need to do this. This what you do. And she said, when she used to do that, the lady said, nah. She said, well, you ain't serious. If you ain't serious, then don't come to me talking about what he is or whatever. You ain't doing nothing to construct. So make a long story short, her and husband's things start getting better a little bit between them. And so then as she started talking to my wife, she said, oh yeah, I know my husband did, but now he doing this. And I said, see, it's good that you didn't get with her when she was saying stuff about him, say you right, because then she would have came back and said, yeah, I know I said this, but he. So it wasn't nowhere for her to go with that when my wife was like, nah, go to the authorities or whoever to get them to deal with it. Make a long story short, they whole thing, it just fell apart. But what that showed my wife is, and me, that, hey, a lot of times people, they just want to dump different things off on you, but they're not looking for a solution. They're not looking for a solution. And a lot of times, even in the thing called Christianity thing, one of the reasons, especially in the black church, why you see people be shouting and dancing, kicking over chairs and everything, is they rather do that than really get to the heart of fixing the problem, right? They rather just, okay, well, I'm just gonna stay with him because I'm scared of this. Or is the man, if it's a man, doing certain things. Yeah, I know I shouldn't be doing this or whatever, but times are hard. I got to do what I got to do. I got to hustle or whatever. And so then when they come to the church, then they're kicking over things or whatever, because that's their release, but they're not strong enough in Yah, or maybe not even saved at all, in order to go ahead and rectify that and say, I'm just going to have to step out on faith, and I'm going to have to go through this suffering. I'm going to have to suffer in silence. I'm not going to be making all this hoopla and all this kind of stuff. I'm just going to go through it and get through it and then come out the other end. No, they don't want to do that. And when they come to church, it's almost like a child kicking and screaming. You're going through, you're getting beat upside the head by the dude because you know he's a drug dealer or whatever, and you don't want to come out of a solution, and you're crying. You ain't suffering. You're not suffering for righteousness. You are not. And you're not going to get no credit for it until you come out of that situation. That's why what Peter said later in verse 17, he said, the time has come that he must begin the judgment at the house of Yah. He said, if it begin at us, where shall be the end of those that don't even obey the good news of Yah? What about those that's not even trying? He said, that are trying in verse 18. He said, the righteous are scarcely going to be saved. He said, where is the ungodly and the sinner going to appear? If you got these people out here that shouting and doing all this kind of stuff and just going back out and doing this ridiculous stuff, he said, they barely going to get in by the skin of their skinny teeth. He said, what about those that are sinners and don't even know Yah? He said, wherefore let them that suffer according to the will of Yah. So he's saying, when you suffer, let it be according to the will of Yah, and not according to your will, that you're suffering through stuff that obviously you should not be participating in. You should not be part of this, these Super Bowl, whatever that thing is where they put in the fantasy leagues and all this other kind of stuff. And now this thing has moved from just being a little office thing to be a multi-billion-dollar industry with these fantasy leagues and all this other kind of stuff. And you all up into all of that and say, oh, it was just fun or whatever, but it's a major portion of your money, and that you could do other things with or whatever. And you wonder why you having problems or whatever. And then you say, oh, I gotta make it to the Dallas football game equivalent. You spending thousands of dollars. You got these football shrines. You got all this kind of stuff. He said, and then you having problems. He said, if any man suffer, let it be according to the will of Yah, and commit keeping of his soul to him in well doing as unto a faithful creator. Yah did not create us to be out here doing all these different things. And then, especially when we get saved, we're not supposed to be out here doing some of these things. If any man suffer, let him suffer as a believer and not as an unbeliever. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And I can look at like I said, in my early life, but Yah was able to help me recover barely. Not just financially, but also spiritually. That's why, like I said, I gave this testimony years ago when I first started my channel, and talked about how I came out of this Christianity thing when that one pastor, and the last pastor that I had, and I was trying to become part of this major denomination. He said, yeah, if you want the church, because I had a little mission church at the time. He said, if you want your church to be part of whatever, you got to pay this denomination that I'm gonna help you get in $600 a month. Then, no, you gotta pay $600. No, you gotta pay $600 to get in. And then, if you're an elder in another denomination, if you switch over to their denomination to get a pastor's license with them, you gotta pay $300 for an elder's license, and then another $300 for a pastor's license, and then every year you got to pay those or whatever, renewal. And I said, man, and then you had the monthly dues that you had to pay. And I was like, I said, it seemed to me that the major portion of what I would be doing in ministry would have nothing to do with ministering to souls, but getting up money to give to this denomination to legitimize myself so that people say, oh, well, you legitimately part of this major denomination. But most of my ministering would be to get the money out of the people, if I could get the people in order to be part of this. I said, I don't want, he said, but I said, this is what you're saying? He said, yes. He said, this is all it is. I said, it ain't, he said, there ain't nowhere else to go. I said, well, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. I'm not going to be part of that no more. And I thank the Most High Yah, because I said, look, man, I don't have no time. Life is too short to be part of that. And then what ends up happening is, most of the time, especially in black Christianity, you're going to have to keep a job as a pastor unless you in AME, Zion, or CME, where they got tons of money saved up, where they can, which I've been seeing a lot of embezzlement and scandalous things going on with that. I'm gonna do a video on the tremendous amount of money that is raised and fraudulently used in black religious institutions, which could have been our reparations 10 times over without us waiting for white people to give it to us. But and then when you get to a certain retirement age with the with your job or whatever, you retire from that, and then you'll just tell whatever church you got or whatever, you'll try to get a young man to come take over, and then ask them to give you a little portion of their offerings that they're raising. It ain't got nothing to do with ministering to people's souls. It's like I told you years ago, if you want to be a preacher in the South, black preacher in the South, you gotta be able to bury, you gotta be able to Christian the babies, bury people, marry people, baptize them, and have a girlfriend on the side. I'm lie to you not. I'm saying, if you can do that, you can be called a successful minister as a black man, not just in the South, but anywhere in the world, anywhere in these United States of America. And if you quote unquote suffer, I'm suffering for righteousness' sake. No, you're not. You're not. I'm sorry. That's why I said, you know what? Life is too short. This definitely, obviously, this system is not what the Most High Yah created. That's why it's crumbling. That's why it's falling. That's why the COVID came and is to the most point flat. It's almost flatline. It's still holding on, but it's getting ready to flatline because it never was the Most High Yah system. It is the harlot woman, the invisible, the virgin woman, the woman that has the 12 stars under it. This is not to be, it's not visible. He said the kingdom of Yah does not come with observation. It's always been that. And unfortunately, when we came here to America, we got put into that harlot. Now, we've been operating the best we could within it. That's why Yeshua said in Revelations, come out from among her, that ye be not partaker of her sins, that ye be not partaker of her sufferings, that you are considering it to be suffering for righteousness, suffering for Yah. You're not. You suffering because it is the suffering of a sinner, because you are a part of an organization or a religion that Most High Yah is bringing his judgment upon it. And you're saying, because I remember, and I'm getting ready to end this video, one of my relatives was telling me, oh, we're on a 21-day fast for this, that, and other, and we're on a 21-day fast for the suffering that Christians are going through in this country. I said, really, what suffering is believers going through in this country? What so righteous thing have they done that they're suffering for? What is that? I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. Most of the, well, I ain't gonna get into that because that might get my channel flagged, but nah, I don't see it. I don't see it. If it's anything, okay, let's say with white Christianity, what are you suffering? You are suffering now because you are supporting a man that you almost equate to being the second coming of Jesus Christ, if that's the word you use. That's why you suffering. It ain't got nothing to do with you suffering for the God. What in black Christianity, why are you suffering? Why are you suffering? You're suffering because you're supporting lifestyles and you're supporting things that women do to their self outside of traumatic issues that happen to them, you're supporting them having the free right to do that. You're suffering for that. That is not suffering for righteousness' sake. That's not suffering for the kingdom of Yah. You suffering for sin, and you equating it to suffering as a believer, but it's not. And we got to come out from that. So with that, I'm going to ask you to give this video a thumbs up. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. I'm going to ask you to please go back and look at your life, past, present, and maybe future, on what you are suffering, and make sure it's equating to what Peter is telling us here in 1 Peter, the 4th chapter. Be blessed.